Good afternoon. This is Kara with NCFlex, and we'll get started in just a minute. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I did post in the chat a link to the slides if you want to open that up. You're more than welcome to follow along. They'll be on the screen, but there are some links in the slides that you may want to use today or later. So you should be able to find those on there. There is a Q&A where you can put in a question if you have one throughout the session. We'll either answer it out loud or we'll type in the answer, or we may do both. And today we're going to talk about flexible spending accounts. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let's see. The agenda for today is to talk about what the flexible spending accounts are. Some of you on here today may already participate in these and just want more information. Some of you may be curious about them, thinking about participating in the future. And so we're going to talk about what they are, how they work, the two different kinds, how the convenience card works, general reminders about the plans, continuing them when you leave, how to view your account on the PNA website or the mobile app, filing claims when you need to or submitting documentation, FSA mobile pay and scan, and accessing your account and information. And so someone asked for me to post the link to the slides again. I wonder if when you join and they were already posted, if you can't see them. So I'm going to try again. Hopefully you can see them now. All right, let's see. So general information about what a flexible spending account is when you take your money, decide on an amount, and we'll talk about what the maximum amounts are you can have, and you put it aside pre-tax to spend on things you were already planning to spend money on. And yes, we are going to record today's session, and we will send it out through the email afterwards, just in case you missed part of this. So you put aside your own money pre-tax for things you were already going to spend it on, and that means you're saving 25 to 40% on taxes, depending on your tax bracket. It lowers your taxable income as well. And you'll notice when you get a W-2 at the end of the year, you'll see line items for the FSA amounts that you put in. So if you're doing your own taxes, there's places where it'll ask you, is there anything in this box? And you'll see if it's in that box. When you decide on an amount, the deductions are divided evenly among the pay periods you have remaining once your coverage begins. So if you have, like if you do an election during open enrollment and it becomes effective January 1st and you're paid 12 times in the year, then it's divided by 12. If you're paid semi-monthly, typically 26 times in the year, then it's going to be divided by 24 actually. So you'll be, so it's more even, and that amount will come out of your check. If you have a life event and you have, like your life events today, April 9th, you had a baby and you made it effective today for birth, it's effective on the date of birth. For other life events, it's effective the first of the next month, then it's going to be split up over the remainder of the year. Someone did ask a question, how do you find what you have submitted that was denied? I can't get help from PNA. Where do you find what you submitted 2 years ago on the PNA website? Robin, if you could please email us I'm going to put in the NCFlex email address so that we can reach out to P&A for you and find out that information. We can help you. Because I don't know if there's a way to look at prior denied expenses or ones that they asked for documentation on when it's that far back, but we can, Cindy, are you wanting to, unmute? You have your hand raised.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. For that question regarding how can you view previous plan years, you can log into your P-admin account online and you can click on the plan year that you're needing and it should give you all of the details. And if you have any problems doing that, you can contact customer support and they will walk you through it. If it's something that is too far back and you do not see that you have access to it on your account, you can contact customer service and they can request for it to be downloaded from the archives.
And customer service, I'm going to type in that phone number in the chat in case you need it. Let's see, it's 866-916-3475. It's also going to be at the end of the slides today. You'll see some contact information. And Cindy Brooks, she's with P&A. She's one of our reps, so she's on today to also help with questions. All right, so moving forward, more general information about the flexible spending accounts is you do get a convenience card. It's like a credit card because you don't need a PIN for it. But when you choose a healthcare FSA, the money is all loaded at once on the effective date, whereas the dependent daycare FSA, it's loaded as you get payroll deductions. So the dependent daycare account does not load everything at once, whereas the healthcare FSA does. It's the same card that you use for both, and it should recognize which account to take it out of if you swipe it, depending on the terminal you're swiping it at. And outside of a card, if you need to file a claim, you can file online, through a paper form, through the mobile app, and I'll have another slide on filing claims. But this link, if you have the slides, you use those, you can click on that link and it takes you to a web page where we have more information about filing claims. And those are also, when it shows you how to go online to your account, that's also one way to find your current year election. And I'll show you some screenshots of what the online account looks like. When you do file a claim manually versus using your card, the reimbursements are going to be made to you by direct deposit, not paper check. And yes, for the dependent care, you can use the card. But like I said, with the dependent daycare spending account, the money isn't available until it comes out of your check. So some people prefer to use the card. Some people prefer to file manual claims. I've used the dependent daycare account for probably 10 years now. I've always filed paper claims, but part of that is because either I don't get an invoice that I can, or there's nowhere to swipe a card, or there's like a card fee. I don't like that. Or in the past when my kids were in daycare and it was expensive, typically I was getting up to the 5,000 I had for the year by like May. And if I filed those claims as they went along, then every month I would just automatically get reimbursed what I was having taken out of my check. And I would not have to file claims for the rest of the year once I hit 5,000. I know that probably didn't make any sense, but you can use your card. You don't have to use your card if you want to file manual claims. And Bonita, how long does it take to typically get reimbursed? Usually P&A takes 3 to 5 days to review your claim. And once they review it, then it's reimbursed within a day or two. So sometimes it may take a little longer, but I usually see 3 to 5 days. How does the claim reimbursement get direct deposited? Is there a place to put bank account information? So most payrolls automatically give that information to P&A. It feeds to P&A, so they're going to get it from whatever your payroll check's going into. If you are with a charter school or community college, check with your payroll office to see, or your HR benefit rep to see if there's something you need to do to get that information to P&A. But usually they'll tell you if you're with a university or you're with Fiore, Beacon, then your information is automatically fed to P&A. And that's the bank account that you get a direct deposit in. Let's see. And these accounts do have re-enrollment required each year. So during open enrollment, you do have to re-enroll in an FSA for the next year to keep contributing. You don't have to re-enroll to keep your rollover on the healthcare FSA. And Bonita, if you have a payroll check that goes to separate accounts, typically you're going to have a primary account and then you're going to have an extra account. You could check with your payroll office to see which one you have as primary. So for the healthcare FSA, some more detailed information about that, because the healthcare FSA is one of the flexible spending accounts that we have. We have two. And with this one, it's going to be for things like out-of-pocket medical, vision, and dental expenses, which I'll talk more about. But the maximum amount you can contribute each year is $3,200 currently. So for 2025, the max amount is $3,200. If you and your spouse are eligible to participate, you both can put in that amount. You both can put in that maximum. Let's see. It has a $640 rollover going into next year, even if you don't enroll in the next plan year. So whatever money you have this year left over at the end of the year, combined from what you rolled from last year and what you put in this year, up to 640 can roll into 2026. Every year it goes up a little bit depending on when the IRS increases our max. But right now it's 640 going into next year. You do have to have a minimum of $25 to roll over. And when you do roll over money and you swipe your card, your New Year contributions are used before your rollover funds. Someone asked, when using our Flex card, how do we handle credit card fees for things like lab work? Technically, credit card fees are not allowed as an FSA expense. So if it's possible for the person, taking your card, for them to split out that payment, that would be best. If they can't and they're trying to just use one card, you may need to pay for it with your personal card and then file a claim with P&A to get that money back that was eligible. Bella asked, I rolled over in 2025, tried to use my card and it denied. Is there a reason why? So Bella, up until probably February sometime, we did have a thing with our card where if you had a rollover, it was held until it was time to, the claim filing period was over, which is March 31st. Then the card vendor actually changed that and let people use it immediately. So it could have been during that period where we weren't allowed to use the rollover funds until the time to file claims was over. And if you have an out-of-pocket expense during that time, then you can file that manually. But now the card should work with rollover as soon as the beginning of the plan year comes. And so Ashley, you asked, does that mean we have to spend all current year funds before rollovers can be accessed? That is true, but just remember, because the reason the rollover or the current year funds are used first is because from January 1st to March 31st, you still have time to file last year's claims. And if you do, they're going to hold that rollover, not hold it, but it's going to be there for filing those claims. Once you tap out this year's account, it does go into the rollover, but just keep in mind that at the end of this plan year, all of that money is seen as the same money. It doesn't matter if it's rollover, it doesn't matter if it's current year, up to 640 can roll into 2026. It's all the same account, even though it looks separate. Okay. And Bella, if that was for your February prescriptions, it probably was before that time that we opened up the card to allow for the rollover to be used. So if you paid for it out of pocket, I would file a manual claim. And someone asked about the HSA, and I'm actually going to talk about that in just a minute. And Gladys, you asked what happens if you try to use the card and it's locked and the year runs out. Can you still get reimbursed after it's closed? So You have until March 31st of the following year to file claims for the prior year. If it goes past March 31st, those claims will be denied. So if your card's locked, I would try to get it unlocked before that March 31st deadline. Okay. All right, let's see. So you can use expenses on the healthcare FSA for yourself, your spouse, your dependent children, or a qualifying relative. Family members do not have to be on your medical, dental, or vision plans. A lot of people think they have to use FSA money for them. They do not. They can have their own dental, vision, and medical, and you still use that money for them. Like I mentioned on the healthcare FSA, the full election is available immediately when it becomes effective. And here's someone asked a question about this. If your spouse contributes to a HSA, a health savings account, those are accounts for people who have a high deductible health plan, you cannot contribute at the same time to a healthcare FSA. If your spouse has an HSA they are no longer contributing to and it's just sitting there, that's okay. But if they are actively contributing to an HSA, you cannot contribute to a healthcare FSA. Does that count for a partner, not a spouse? If you're not legally married, then you're not filing taxes together, then it wouldn't count. If North Carolina doesn't recognize, as far as I know, domestic partnership. So I believe you'd have to be legally married. Gladys, you said you tried to use your rollover, but it shows the funds were taken from a recent contribution. Why is that? It was submitted before March 31st. It depends on what date the claim was for. So I would probably reach out to customer service with P&A, and that number is in the chat. Okay. So more on the healthcare FSA. Eligible expenses include out-of-pocket medical, dental, and vision, like I mentioned earlier. Sometimes when you swipe your card, depending on the amount you swipe it for or where it's at, it could trigger P&A to request more documentation from you. So some of you may have gotten that before. They send an email or a letter saying, please provide documentation. They're going to do that 3 times before they shut down your account. But a lot of times what they want to see is an explanation of benefits from your insurance carrier, not the receipt from the eye doctor or the, medical provider or the dentist, because they want to know, what did your insurance pay? How much did you owe? So an explanation of benefits can be found on your online portals. I'm going to show you in a little bit where an easy spot is to find those online portals under quick links and e-benefits. And for universities, you have links also in Empyrean. You can use the money for things like deductibles, co-insurance, co-pays, and other items not covered by insurance. Prescription co-pays, over-the-counter medications, everyday health products like contact lens solution, bandages, hot and cold packs, sunscreen. And some eligible expenses are going to require a letter of medical necessity, which you can find on our website. And that would be where you have your doctor complete this form. They say what your medical need is and what they're prescribing to you, such as weight loss programs, vitamins and supplements, and massage therapy. Someone said, if I go to Sephora and purchase SPF 15 and over, would it possibly trigger it? Sephora's, card terminal may not be set up to take FSA. Also, some things with SPF 15 in them don't register as FSA eligible, so you may have to submit that manually. But if you swipe it at Sephora and it works, then that's great. I just don't know that their terminal is set up to recognize that as eligible, so you may have to do that manually. Is there a way to increase your FSA if you did not contribute enough? That's one thing we're going to talk about, is that when you can make changes to your flexible spending accounts. And Danielle, you said, I've tried to use my card at local stores for contact lens solution, but it doesn't go through. Do I have to submit a claim for these? Some stores aren't going to be set up to recognize everything that's FSA eligible. They have to have it set up. And if they don't, you can file those manually if the card doesn't work. Lisa, you said I had 2023 money that rolled into 2024. I did not use it all. My money in 2024, and they told me that the 2023 money could not roll over. I could only use that money for expenses in 2024. That's not true. This was told to me by my HR department after they checked. That's not true, Lisa. Unless you had like over the $610 that we could have rolled into this year. But no, it continues to roll over as long as you have that minimum of $25. And I'm sorry if they told you that, but you may want to check your online account and see if it's on there, unless you spent it all beforehand because you might have thought you had to. Some ineligible expenses for the healthcare FSA are insurance premiums and elective cosmetic procedures, and you can find more examples on our website. So this is a national website, fsastore.com. We tell people about it because it's a good place to go and look if things are eligible. You don't have to purchase things from there. They have a eligibility list that you can search through the alphabet. You can type in something to try to find it, or you can go by the alphabet and find it under there. But you can purchase things from there with your card. They do give coupons. Some of their things are more pricey than other stores. So I just use it a lot as a tool to find out if things are eligible. Chandrell asked, when I go to the eye doctor for a new pair of glasses, will my FSA card allow me to pay for the deductibles and my new eyewear? It should, yes, as long as you have the money available. Most likely, that cost will trigger the P&A for you to provide documentation later, because typically it's going to be a good amount of money, over a couple $100s. And just be prepared that you might be contacted for documentation, which you can get from iMed's website if that's who you use. Mark asked, does this require a letter from your primary, or can your chiropractor recommend massage therapy? I'm not sure who can do the letter of medical necessity, if the chiropractor can or not. Cindy, do you know the answer to that?
Yes. The chiropractor can do the letter of medical necessity, but depending on what the, and I don't want to say this wrong, Kara, the reasoning and the only thing I can honestly say is you would have to have your chiropractor fill out that letter of medical necessity, and it would have to be reviewed by P&A. The diagnosis is what is the trigger of either they're approved or they're denied. Just because a doctor says that you need something doesn't necessarily mean that the IRS says it's something that's approved. Does that make sense?
Yep. All right. Thank you, Cindy.
Mm-hmm.
And Ruby, can FSA pay for acupuncture? That would be something I think you need a letter of medical necessity for. Isn't that right, Cindy?
That is correct. You need a letter of medical necessity for that.
And there is, let's see. I was going to see if I could find the link on our website for you guys so you could have it, the letter of medical necessity form. So I'm just going to put that in the chat here, a link to where that form is in case you need it.
Yeah, and a very good resource, Kara, is on your website is that FSA sample eligible expense list.
Mm-hmm.
That does give the most common asked about items. But
Okay.
if there's something that they're not sure of course, they can go to the FSAstore.com, which is not affiliated with P&A.
Right.
There's a search bar. You can enter the item, and when the results come up, it's going to tell you if it's FSA eligible, if it's FSA eligible with a letter of medical necessity, or if it's not FSA eligible at all.
Thank you. And I'm going to put the FSA eligibility list in the chat here. And someone said, can FSA be used for dermatology appointments? Yes, because they're going to have a copay and you can swipe it for that. And Jenny asked, my daughter, 23 years old and unmarried, is covered under my Flex account card. If she moves out of North Carolina, can she continue to use the Flex card in South Carolina? Yes, it can be used all over the United States. So that's fine. This slide just shows you, if you're not familiar with how the FSA helps you with your taxable income. On the left side, you see someone with an FSA, on the right without, and in the end, the person with the FSA who puts aside the $2,000 saves about $600 in taxes. And this, imagine that was $2,000 you were already going to spend on kids' braces, on sunscreen, on a surgery, then you could save those taxes on that money. So dependent daycare FSA, talk a little bit about this account. This one is used for daycare expenses, after school expenses, which I think is on the next slide of what the eligible expenses are. And it has a $5,000 maximum for most employees per household. So if you and your spouse both work for the state, or you and your spouse both work for employers that can contribute to this, you should not be contributing more than 5,000 together. So if both of you want to participate, just make sure your maximum doesn't exceed 5,000. And when it says for most employees, we do have, the IRS requires us to do kind of like an audit on this plan, where we find people who are considered highly compensated by the IRS. And we do have to reduce the maximum amount from $5,000. If you're one of those people, you'll get a notice about it being reduced. Let's see. And these funds, like I said earlier, become available once they are payroll deducted. Then they're loaded onto your card, the same card as the FSA, but they're not available until they are payroll deducted. Sometimes that's hard if you're paying a daycare and you owe like $1,000, but you only have 416 in your dependent daycare FSA. You might have to swipe your convenience card and then a different card at the daycare. Both parents must work to participate in this plan, or one be a full-time student or looking for a full-time job. But if one parent does not work and stays at home, then you are not eligible to participate in the plan. Reimbursement is limited to the amount in your account, which is the same thing as that second bullet there. And we are going to talk about where you can find your Flex account on an upcoming slide. Special rules applied for separated or divorced employees. So the IRS says you have to have the child for at least 50% of the year. And if so, like if you're divorced, I think you can contribute up to $2,500. If you each have the child 50% of the time. With this plan, unlike the healthcare FSA, because this plan has a grace period, not a rollover, when you come into the new plan year, you use prior year money first before current year money. So in January, if I had money left over from 2024, it's going to come out of 2024 money before 2025 money, because this account has a grace period and not a rollover. And claims for reimbursement can be made for qualifying family members, not just children, such as a parent or a spouse who attends adult daycare. A grace period, again, applies to the plan. It gives you more time to use the funds. So you have through March 15th of the next year to use the money from the current year. If you have questions about your specific situation, about who qualifies for you to use this money for, or if this is the best account for you, you should talk to a tax professional. Eligible expenses are going to be child daycare for children under age 13, before and after school care beginning with kindergarten for children under age 13, payments to day camps but not overnight camps, daycare expenses for qualifying child of any age, spouse, or other dependent who is physically or mentally incapable of caring for themselves. Some ineligible expenses are going to include tuition, like kindergarten and up. If you're doing a private school, the tuition does not count as an eligible expense. And overnight camps and virtual camps are not eligible either. This slide shows the same thing as the healthcare FSA, showing that this account would reduce your taxable income. And if you did put aside $5,000 for the year, you'd save about $1,500. And when you do your taxes, it's going to ask, how much did you put into the dependent daycare spending account, which should be a line item on your W-2. And it's also going to ask how much you spend on childcare. Because usually if you spend more than what you put in to this dependent daycare FSA, there's still a tax break for you on that additional amount. This is a comparison recap of the details I just talked about, the healthcare FSA and dependent daycare FSA. The healthcare FSA is $3,200 per person, whereas the dependent daycare is $5,000 per family. The healthcare FSA has a rollover, whereas the dependent daycare has a grace period. And you'll see the plan year here for healthcare FSA is January 1st to December 31st. Whereas dependent daycare, the plan year doesn't end until March 15th of the next year. It shows you how the new year funds are used first, and then the rollover on the healthcare FSA, and then prior year funds on the dependent daycare FSA are used first through the grace period. Both have a deadline of March 31st to file claims. If you miss that deadline, you could still file your claim, but P&A will deny it, and then there's an appeal process. You'll have to appeal it as to why you missed the deadline. So it's not guaranteed to be approved, but there is a process for that. Ashley, I was looking at your question, is after hours care covered? And when you say after hours care, I'm assuming you're talking about maybe late night. And anytime you're paying for childcare so you can work at an eligible facility or someone at home, after school care, yes, it is covered. You can use this for that because I use this for my child for after school care. My after school care does charge a fee on cards, so that's why I pay them with a check. And if you do pay with a check and they don't give you an invoice, because our after school care doesn't have an invoice, you can do the claim form online and you can have them fill out their portion of it saying that you did pay that amount and file that manually. If you ever have questions about that, you can email us, ncflex@nc.gov. We can tell you how to do that. So some information on the convenience card. You can use the convenience card to pay for eligible expenses on either account. Just save your documentation. Now, personally, I'm terrible at that. When I buy something from the store, like a sunscreen, am I saving the receipt? Usually not, but technically you're supposed to save all that documentation of everything you use your FSA account for. So I'm telling you to do as I say, not as I do. Save your documentation if you remember. And cards are issued at no cost to you. They're good for 3 years. You're not going to get a card every year. It's only if it expires. They will automatically reorder it for you. But if you lose your card or someone steals it, please report that immediately and you can get a new card. There's no additional charge for a new card. And you can also order cards for dependent children up to age 26 and over 18, and for spouses, you can order them a card too. If an eligible item doesn't work when you swipe your card, submit a manual claim to P&A. And Rebecca said, is makeup with SPF 15 eligible? Technically, it should be eligible, so you may have to file a manual claim because your card probably won't recognize it as eligible. Okay. So some general reminders about P&A about FSAs. You cannot prepay for services. So this sometimes happens when you're about to have a surgery. That's a little different because if you're getting ready to have the surgery, most likely the surgery is happening that day, the next day. And by the time you swipe the card and P&A asks for documentation, you've got the documentation, right? But when you're prepaying for things like chiropractic services or massage therapy, and they're asking you, hey, if you pay all this up front, we'll give you a discount, and you swipe your card, it's not allowed. The only time I would say it would be allowed is if you're doing an orthodontia treatment plan and they require a deposit up front for that orthodontia treatment plan. That's okay, but otherwise, if you're prepaying for services that haven't happened, P&A can cut off your card for that, so please be careful. Let's see. You cannot use current year contributions for prior year expenses. So if you have a bill from last year and you're still trying to pay that off and you use your convenience card for it and P&A finds out, they will freeze your account. So please be careful paying for prior year expenses with current year money. Now, if you're paying prior year expenses with a rollover fund, that has to be done manually, and that is okay. But it's when you're swiping your card in the current year for prior year bills. Amanda, you said, I just started with the state and I did not opt to contribute to the dependent care FSA. Can I go back and change that, or do I have to wait until the next open enrollment period? If you could please email us, ncflex@nc.gov, and we'll look at your situation, okay? Yes, someone asked if they can order a card mid-year, not during OE, and yes, you can. You can order a card at any time because a lot of times people are losing their card or they need to order one for their child or spouse. Okay, so someone asked earlier, when can we make changes to our FSA? Can we elect more when we realize we didn't have enough? And the answer is you cannot make changes just because you decided you needed more or didn't need as much. There has to be a valid life event. Because we are a cafeteria plan, NCFlex, we have multiple plans. And we fall under the IRS Section 125. They say that you cannot make changes unless there's a valid life event. Those events would include things like marriage, birth, adoption, death of a dependent, divorce, loss of other coverage, daycare change, such as start, stop, or change in cost. And for most of these things, for all of these things, you're going to need documentation to support what happened. If you are reducing your healthcare FSA at any point, you cannot reduce it below what you have used. So we have to monitor that and not let you drop it too low if that's what you're doing. May I still able to enroll? In just a minute, so someone asked about retiring. We're going to talk about what happens at retirement. Okay. Right here, continuation after employment. And I love it. Oh, that's good. Jenny said, I have saved my Flex card to my phone's wallet. I hope that's okay. And I love it. So now I'm never without my card unless I don't have my phone. That's awesome. And we're going to actually talk about the mobile pay and scan. I think that's what it's called. So that's very cool. Okay, so continuation after employment. So let's talk a little bit about that. If you leave employment, whether retiring or separating, and you have the dependent daycare flexible spending account, you cannot continue the dependent daycare FSA putting money into it after you leave. Any money you have put into it, you can continue to use for expenses that you incur after you leave up through the end of the plan year. So you can still use that money on the dependent daycare FSA only. The healthcare FSA is different. It's just the dependent daycare FSA. So if I put in $3,000 and I leave August 1st, then I can still have childcare expenses through the end of the year and use that money for that, any money I've put in there. Now with the healthcare FSA, if you leave employment, it's going to depend on your situation. If you have money left over above what you put in, I'm sorry, if you use money above what you put in, let's say you put in $600, you've used $1,000 and you leave. You do not have to pay that back, but you no longer have access to any of that money that's left in there if you have more money left. Now, if you leave and you put in $600 and you've only used $100, you will lose what you have not used unless you choose COBRA. If you use less than you put in, you will be offered COBRA. Now, COBRA is going to be post-tax, and it's going to have a 2% fee. So it's expensive, and it's kind of pointless to have it if you don't need it because it's no longer pre-tax advantage. This is the only way the FSA can be continued with us when you leave. And otherwise, unless you go to another employer who participates, that would be the only other way you could continue. But if you retire, you would no longer keep your healthcare FSA. So Cobra would be the only option, but again, it's post-tax, a 2% fee. I would only recommend it if you need more time to spend that money and you had a lot of money left, or if you're towards the end of the year and it's only like 1 or 2 months that you have to pay. If you retire January 1st, you've paid in an entire plan year. Like this year, if you paid in all of 2025 and you retire January 1st and you've got money left, you should be offered Cobra, but you have to elect it to keep any money that you had left in the account. You won't owe anything because you paid in a full 12 months, but you will have that option of Cobra. Okay, so Edwin asked, can I use Flex if I enrolled in Medicare A? My wife is not. Yes, you can still use the Flex account if you're enrolled in Medicare Part A. It's just once you retire and no longer an active employee that you cannot. Okay, so this, and I'm gonna, I'll show you ways you can get into this account, but this is just a screenshot of where you can, what you're gonna see when you log into your FSA account. And actually, I'm just gonna pull up real quick and show you how I get into mine. This may help you. Let me see how I share my screen. Okay. So personally, and this is going to be a little different for university employees because you guys have both e-benefits and you have Empyrean. And your NCFlex benefits are technically an Empyrean for university employees, but you still have the e-benefit system with links in it, I believe. So you probably will still see these links if they kept them in here. And what I'm talking about is I just went into the enrollment system. However you can get there. A lot of people will say, I don't need to enroll, so why am I going in here? Well, there's all these quick links on the left if you see here. I'll say if you have the cancer plan, it'll take you directly to your account. IMED if you have vision. And this is where you can go to if you need an EOB or an explanation of benefits from vision, dental, medical. There's your Aetna member portal. With Aetna member portal, you do need to register first, and they're going to ask you some personal information to register. For these other ones, you do not have to register. So when you click on the P&A flexible spending account directly from here, it's going to log you into your account. Otherwise, you can go to padmin.com. Nope, I think it's ncflex.padmin.com. And that's one way you can go there, and you can log in here if you know your login. Otherwise, I go usually directly through quick links in my benefits portal because I do not remember my password. If you have the mobile app, that's another way to go. So that might be easier for you. But that's how I get to it. And now I'm going to show you kind of what the screens look like in there. So if you have a current year account, you should see that at the top. It's going to say FSA. You have a plan ID and it will be 2025. If you don't have a current year account, just ignore this part, but this won't be at the top. But it shows you the planned end date, which is 12/31. The final day to submit claims is March 31st of next year. You'll see your election amount, your available funds, how much you've contributed, total amount of claims submitted, how much was paid. And if you click show hide account details, this will show you more information on your claims. So you can dig down deep if you want to see which claims have you submitted, which were approved, which were denied. Now this button up here, if you click choose action, it's going to have a drop down box over here to the right. And this is where you can do different things, report a lost or stolen card, request a new card, view claim. And someone said, what is the mobile app? It's called P&A, like an ampersand A. I'm trying to look at P&A group. And it's got a white background and a blue swish with P&A group. I think it's actually called P&A benefits. I can't remember now, but I'll show you in a second when I can pull up the flyer because we do have a flyer on it. I'm trying to think now what it's called. So going back to what you see online, if you then have a dependent daycare spending account, you'll see this item here. Again, you'll see the same kind of information. Notice the planned end date is March 15th of the next year. Same day to submit claims. And you'll have the amount you elected, available funds, amount contributed. So you'll notice here, well, if you have this account, your available funds are going to be what you've contributed minus how much your claims you've been paid. And then if you have a carry forward account from last year, you would have a carry forward line item or a box there, and that would give you information on your carry forward account. Okay. And then if you have prior year accounts after March 31st, you'll see them towards the bottom, and they're going to have a status of inactive after March 31st because that was the final day to submit claims. And also on the account, you'll be able to see quick links to the left where you can, this is where I typically go to upload a claim. I upload my dependent daycare claims here, or I upload things that were out of pocket. Like sometimes I'll buy things on Amazon, like allergy meds, and I might have to submit that manually. But once you click upload a claim or documentation, it's going to take you to this screen with the blue buttons. And if you needed to respond to a claim, then that's where you click claim response, and you can upload an EOB. And it should have an item on there that shows you what you're responding to. So you can submit claims when you're not, your card's not being used and you need to submit a manual claim. You can do it via paper form from a computer or mobile device at ncflex.padmin.com. You can submit via mobile app. Let's see. I was going to see if it'd let me click on it. Search P&A Group in Google Play or App Store. I think Amy, you answered what that app was called there. Let's see. Thank you. Amy put the mobile app flyer, and it's actually, let's see. I was going to see what it was called. P&A My Benefits app. So P&A My Benefits is what the app's called. If you are submitting a manual claim, have a copy of your receipt or invoice, dates of service or purchase, amount of the claim. And if it's a dependent daycare account claim, then you want to have the tax ID of either the daycare provider, the after school care service, or if it's a person watching your child for you to work, then their social security number. If you use a convenience card, you do not have to submit documentation unless it's requested from you. Once it's requested, it will be requested 3 times before they shut off your card, and you have approximately 45 days to submit. Chandrell, you may, if you're having a problem with the mobile app opening, have you ever registered online? Because I think you can register on the mobile app now. So I'm not sure why it's not opening. But you may want to try to register online just to make sure you can get in that way and then try the mobile app. And if it doesn't work, you could call P&A. Yes, Cindy.
I would suggest if the mobile app is not opening, uninstall it and reinstall it again and see if that helps. And if not, you can call P&A customer service. But
Okay.
honestly, if it's the fact of, you're downloading it and then the app is not opening, that's more than likely not a P&A issue.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably like a phone issue or an app issue.
Yeah.
Okay. And the person who said I'm having issues registering online, it says no data found. If you're sure you have an FSA account, you may want to call P&A Group and ask them if you already have registered before, because you may have, or ask them if there's a reason it's not recognizing you. And I'm assuming you went to ncflex.padmin.com. But if you are able to get into your enrollment system and you can click on the P&A link under quick links, or if you're in Empyrean, I think it's at the bottom of the screen, then it should automatically log you in there. But on your mobile app, it's not going to do it that way. So you will have to register there.
Yeah,
But
and
again, and with the mobile app too, if you've already registered online and you're trying to register on the mobile app, it may be not letting you because you're already registered. Were you going to say something, Cindy?
yes, if you're trying to register as a new user and it's not recognizing your information, close out, go back in, and click forgot my password.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the fact that you already have the account, and try it that way. And if that doesn't work, contact customer service.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
This talks about the FSA mobile pay and scan. So you can pay for eligible expenses digitally through your mobile devices. Someone mentioned that they added their card to their Apple Pay, I think, or their phone. And so you can open your digital wallet, the Apple Pay, the Google Pay, or the Samsung Pay, enter your convenience card details, and then you'll have that available on your phone versus having a physical card. And we do have an information flyer on our website about that. Let's see. This is information on who you can contact afterwards if you have questions. ncflex.padmin.com or the P&A Group mobile app. You can view your account, order a new card or card for dependents over 18, upload claims, supporting documentation. You can call P&A. You can also look in ncflex.org. And we have a ton of information on there about how to submit claims, eligible items, letter of medical necessity. Ruby asked, once you claim, where the amount of money you claim will be reimbursed. So Ruby, the money is going to be reimbursed to your checking account or your bank account, wherever your direct deposit goes to for your employer. That's where the money is going to be reimbursed to. So once it's, typically once you file it, if you're signed up for email alerts, you'll get an email saying it's been submitted, and then you'll get an email when it's approved. And once you see that approval, you should see that money within a day or two fall into your account. You can, again, reach out to us, ncflex@nc.gov, if you do have questions. We have our email, and we will post a recording of the webinar today at this website, and we'll also send it out to those who registered. And we do have a few more minutes if you guys have any other questions. In the meantime, I'm also going to show you the FSA store, where they have the eligibility list. If you've never seen that before, it's fsastore.com. Let's see. So this is the fsastore.com. And if you click on this menu over here to the left, see, they're offering a coupon right up front there. There is an eligibility list here. And this is where you can search eligible items. You can change from FSA to dependent care FSA. Oh, good. I'm glad it was helpful, y'all. Someone asked, where do you look on the site to see your balance? So when I went to the P&A website, here is like when I open up my account, this is what it looks like online. And I can see that my available funds are on this line right here. But if you have a carry forward account, you'll have another box under this with your carry forward account, and you'll have available funds in that as well. Or you may have available funds in that as well. So you would need to add those two together because they're both available now. If you go on your mobile app, it'll look a little different for you. You just click on the account and you should be able to see the available balance. When you're on ncflex.org, we do have boxes for each of our benefits. If that's where you can click on flexible spending accounts and you can see, you can get more information on each account. You can find how to order additional cards. Well, that takes you directly to P&A's website. When can I access my contribution? It's got information on that, how to contact P&A, learn more about filing claims. That shows you how to file claims, mobile app, computer, fax, or mail. Just lots of details on here. We also talk about on the healthcare FSA page, what happens like when you leave and how can you continue your plan towards the bottom. Continuation options. Let's see, mobile app is, I think, great question. Learn more about filing claims. That's where it's at. From my computer, and I know we had it on here. Mobile app. There it is. So this is the mobile app. Someone said, "Oh, my account has none of the center information like yours." Okay. It depends on if you're looking online or on your mobile app, but you can always either reach out to us, ncflex@nc.gov, and we can maybe Microsoft Teams with you and look at your screen. Or you can call P&A and ask them to look at your account and why you're seeing that. The person who asked, is there a deadline to use your rollover funds? So every year at the end of the year, whatever you have in rollover from the year before and whatever you have in current year funds is combined. I mean, not physically combined, but technically you can roll over up to 640 into the next year. So there's not a deadline to use it as long as you keep a balance of $25 or above. Then every year it's going to keep rolling over as your active employee. If you leave though, you do need to use your funds by the end of the month you leave. How did you get there from that flyer? Oh, for the flyer. So I think that's Lorraine asking me that. So Lorraine, I just went to the FSA website on our page. Let me go back. I went to flexible spending accounts because our website has been changed. It looks nicer, but sometimes it's harder for me to find things because I'm not familiar with it yet. But on the main FSA website, when we go to learn more about filing claims, then you can do smartphone or tablet, and there's a link to the mobile app right there. Oh, so Saru, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, but that's a pretty name. I've never seen it before. You did say to answer the person who couldn't see their information. Yours wasn't showing either, and you clicked on a button. Let me see if I can find what you're talking about. So let me log in real quick. Sorry, let's see here. This is the only way I know how to get on my account is to go to quick links because I don't know how to log in. All right, so you said that you had to click on My Benefits Home. So maybe this tab up here. So maybe if you're not on that tab, or maybe you might have been on another spot on here. So maybe click My Benefits Home for the person who couldn't see their account. Oh, good. You said that worked. Awesome. Thank you for y'all helping, and glad she got it. Is she? You're anonymous, I'm not sure. All right, well, we're just about at 1 o'clock. So we will sign off, but if you have questions going further, reach out to P&A, reach out to NCFlex. We're happy to help you whatever way we can. We want the FSAs to be something you see as a positive thing because they should be positive. They're saving you tax money. And if we can help ease any frustrations for you, we're happy to do that. Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. I hope y'all have a great afternoon.